In today's video, we're going to be talking about the 7 steps to permanently ending an affair. Alright, the 7 steps to permanently ending an affair. Step number 1, make a true and irreversible decision to end the affair. You know, there's something powerful about decision. There's power in it. And when you make a decision and you stand on your word, everything begins to change. A lot of times people are vacillating back and forth. There's a lot of ambiguity. There's a lot of confusion as to what to do. And you're weighing your options and you're considering your thoughts, and your mind is telling you one thing, your emotions are telling you something else, but you know that this affair has to come to an end. But you have to be resolute. You have to be determined with a particular decision. So if you are making the decision to end this affair, you're ultimately saying yes to the ending of the affair. And listen, whatever you say yes to, you have to protect that yes by surrounding it with a whole bunch of no's. Meaning, what are all of the temptations? What are all of the thoughts? What are all of the reach outs, the contacts? What are all of the behaviors that you can engage in that you would have to say no to in order to protect your yes, which is ending the affair? So as a practical tip, take out a piece of paper, right? Write down ending the affair, put a circle around it, and then write down all the things that you have to say no to on a daily basis in order to protect your yes. The more you begin to look at it from that vantage point, the more successful you will be in your journey. So when we use the word irreversible, it means we cannot turn back the hand of time. Once a decision is made, it is unchangeable. It doesn't have the ability to be manipulated. We don't have the ability to go in a different direction. We're firm in our position and we're moving forward. And sometimes you need reminders about the decision that you've just made. So one of the ways that you can do this is simply by writing down your decision and reading it on a daily basis, because that will begin to build up the confidence and build up the strength that you need not to fall into temptation to reach back out to that affair partner. Number 2, do a complete cleansing of your mind, heart, and environment. If you've ever known anyone who's been on drugs before, in order to get off and to overcome the addiction, they have to go through what is called a detox, where they go away to a different environment, they're off the drug for a period of time, their body's going through cringes and they're experiencing all types of things until they beat the addiction. Likewise, when you're in an affair and you've made an irreversible decision to end it, you have to separate yourself from that particular person, and guess what? Go through a he-tox if it's a male, or a she-tox if it's a female, getting that person completely out of your system. You've got to get them out of your mind. Now, statistics would suggest that it takes anywhere between 4 to 6 weeks of no contact to get back into your right mind and for your heart to be in a better place where you're now thinking sober-mindedly, where now you realize, wait a minute, what was I in? What was I doing? What was the gravity of my decisions? How has it impacted my marriage? When you are disconnected for a period of time, you have a way of processing things in a lot more clear and focused way. But when you're still entangled and you're still communicating and there's still reach outs, it confuses you. So your mind is saying one thing and your heart is saying another, and then you remain stuck in your situation. So cleansing them out of your mind is critically important. Properly assessing the feelings and the emotions that you have, I think, is truly important, because a lot of times newness is sexy. Newness makes us feel as if we're in love, or we have this deep feeling and longing and infatuation for a particular person. Once again, when you cleanse yourself and you detach yourself, your mind and your heart begin to align. And then all of a sudden you begin to properly process the feelings that you're having. And so the reality is, when your heart is in a better place, it allows you to effectively detach from your partner. Then you want to control your environment. Now, there's a number of things that you need to do in order to get your environment in the proper order. Number 1, learn how to delete. Delete emails, delete text messages, delete photos, delete any proof or evidence that reminds you of the affair that you were involved in. If you're holding on to fragments and pieces and particles of the affair, then it pulls you right back in emotionally, intellectually, and in every other way. Unfortunately for some people, physically, if they don't make a hard break. So delete it from your life, delete it from your memory. Number 2, discard. Get rid of everything that that person has given you that's reminiscent of the affair. Maybe there are gifts that they purchased you. Maybe there are cards, trinkets, sentimental items that when you look at it, it's a reminder of that relationship and of that person. So I would encourage you, get a box, get a bag, dump everything in it, throw it away. Don't save it. Some people have a tendency to put it in their attic or put it in their basement for a later day. And so what happens is when a later day comes and now you begin to dig through the box, you become sentimental about this affair, and it brings you right back to that emotional place. But you want to completely discard it out of your life. So whether it's throwing it away or giving it to Goodwill, don't give it to another person. Completely rid yourself of it. Because if you give it to someone else, when you think about that other person, you'll think about what you gave them, and that is another connection to that particular affair. So discard all items from your life that remind you of this relationship. Number 3, completely dismantle. Dismantle every thought, every fantasy, every memory, every idea that you have in your mind that keeps you locked into this particular person and this particular relationship. Sometimes we need to brainwash ourselves. We need to wash our brains of everything associated with this particular relationship because it keeps us tied in. So you need a cleansing, right? Now, how do you cleanse your mind? It's not like you can cut your head open, dump every thought out that's in there, but you have to fill it up. Think about a glass that's full of dirty water. Well, how do you get rid of the dirty water? By pouring clean water into that glass, and it pushes the dirty water out. Likewise, when it comes to how to dismantle these thoughts that you're attached to, you have to fill your mind with better thoughts, with clean thoughts, with pure thoughts, with righteous thoughts, with thoughts about your spouse, with thoughts about your marriage, in order to free you of any thoughts that you're holding on to, which keeps you locked and tied into that particular affair. Okay, step number 3 in how to permanently end an affair. You need to adopt a permanent do not contact policy. Okay? A do not contact contract, meaning you are agreeing to block this person from your phone, to block them from your email, to block them from social media, to unfriend them, to unfollow them. If they respond to you somehow, some way, you are not responding to them. You are completely wiping the slate clean and disassociating yourself, not just in a physical presence, but in an online presence. Most people, because of technology, have easy access to an affair partner. And so what happens is, if you're not clear that this relationship is over, they will reach out in some way, shape, or form. So whether it be an occasional phone call during the holidays, whether it be a quick text, what that does is it creates a temptation where you begin to think, there's nothing wrong with responding just to let them know how I'm feeling. And then that becomes the slippery slope, because one comment leads to one conversation, which leads to an interaction, and now you're tied back into something that is emotional or physical that is detrimental to your marriage. So you have to cut off all forms of communication 100%, no thought of ever going back. That is the effective way to do so. Step number 4 of how to effectively end an affair. Find and eliminate all excuses for failure. You know, it's been said that excuses are the tools of the weak and incompetent, and those who use them are seldom capable of anything else. Now, if you know anything about an excuse is a well-trained lie. It is something that you've told yourself again and again and again that is not true. It is a lie, and with that lie, if you've heard it long enough, it becomes the truth. Someone said that a lie told 1,000 times is more powerful than the truth told once. So the greatest battle that you have is right here in your mind. And if you hold on to the excuse or the well-trained lie, if you hold on to the rationalization or the justification or the reasoning behind why it's okay to remain friends, to stay in touch, There's nothing wrong with being friendly. This person hasn't done anything to offend me or to hurt me or to harm me. And so oftentimes our spouse wants a hard stop, and our spouse wants us to not rationalize anything, but we begin to justify because there was nothing detrimental in our minds about the relationship other than the impact that it's had on the marriage. But you don't realize that any form of connection sucks you back into a mental state that you should not be in. So you've got to be determined. You've got to be resilient. You've got to have stick-to-itivism in your decision and not allow any thought, any suggestion to convince you that it's okay. So you've got to get rid of all of the excuses and all of the thoughts and all of the messaging that you get from media and society that it's okay, nothing's wrong with it. You need to excuse that and have a hardcore position that you stand on to protect the integrity of your marriage. So number 5 on our list in terms of how to effectively and permanently end an affair is to allow the grief, the heartache, and the discomfort to pass. Here's the reality, and this is what makes it kind of touchy when concerning your spouse. You were in a relationship. Maybe it was an emotional affair. Maybe it was a combination or a hybrid affair where it was both emotional and sexual. For some, it may have been a couple of weeks. For others, a couple of months. Some, a few years. Well, when you permanently end the affair, the feeling doesn't go away. The thought doesn't go away. There is a grieving process because grief simply means loss. It's a loss of a relationship. And so it's going to take time for those thoughts and feelings to shift back into place to get you in a better place where you're now connected and harmonious with your spouse. And so what I'm encouraging you to do is to fully embrace the grief process so that you can get through it. Fully embrace the heartache so that you can get through it. Because sometimes we hold on to the days of old. We hold on to the thoughts and the memories of what was. And so when we've been exposed and now something has to permanently come to an end, we're trying to hold on to anything that reminds us of that particular affair. And so what I'm encouraging you to do is to go through the grieving process to get out on the other side. Now, for some who don't have coping skills, this grieving process can last for some time, and what it does, it delays the ability for you to reconnect with your spouse. You should want to get through this as quickly as humanly possible so that you can get into a better place. Because just because you're physically making the decision to stay, it doesn't mean that your heart and your mind is where you're physically resting. So you have to come into perfect alignment by going through the process. And this is what counseling is for. This is what working with someone is for. To help you process those thoughts and process those feelings and to sit in the pit of your pain and to get comfortable with being uncomfortable so that you could properly overcome what you're going through to get in a better place where you're now fully and totally emotionally, intellectually, socially, and sexually committed to your spouse. Number 6, the sixth way to permanently end an affair is to let go and let God. Now, this is a term that we've heard all of our lives, and it sounds good. It's a great quote. It's a great tweet, but oftentimes it's not something that we fully embrace. How do you let go? I've got my glasses in my hand. So if somebody said let go of them, literally I would open up my hand, place it down, and release it. Now that sounds quite simple. And to let go is simple. It's just not easy. It's a simple process, but it's not an easy process. However, when you've made the conscious decision to say, I'm going to let go, I'm going to release, I'm going to get out of my own way, I'm not going to attempt to be in control of this, I'm going to turn it over to God and allow Him to deal with it. The Bible says, cast your cares upon the Lord. And that's what we need to do. Because as long as we remain in the driver's seat, trying to figure it out, trying to control and manage the situation, it keeps us tied in. But when you turn your eyes off of the affair partner and onto God and release it to Him or to lay it down, that is a very critical step in this recovery process. It's going to take more than your own human ability to overcome and completely end the affair. Now, you can technically do it through messaging and it stops. But what's happening internally, we're talking about ending it on the inside of you. So the first step is to disconnect from the person, physically, audibly, conversations. But then the second step is to release them and to disconnect from them in your heart and in your mind. And you do that by simply letting go and letting God take over. Let Him be in the driver's seat. Let Him steer this ship. Let Him take you on a journey. And when that begins to happen, you're now on the right path, going in the right direction to lead to your marital restoration. Our final step to permanently ending an affair is to find and embrace a support system. Listen, you've heard this term before. It takes a village to raise a child. Likewise, it takes a community to keep a marriage intact. And a part of that community are individuals and people that will reinforce the decision that you've ultimately made. Then you want to place yourself in an environment where other people who are dealing with some of the same things are on the path to their own personal recovery. There is safety in support. There's comfort in support. And when you know others have gone through what you're currently going through and they've overcome their issue, that you can overcome yours as well. So these are the 7 things that you must do to properly end your affair.